Hello and welcome to the Mumbles and Things YouTube channel. My name is Maggie, and on this channel I react to witchy content and things that I think are problematic, and I answer your questions about witchcraft. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you can be notified about each new episode or video that I put out. I also would love it if you would hit like on this video to support this channel. You wouldn't believe how much it helps me in growing this channel, so thank you for doing that. Now today's video, I was scrolling through the subreddit. I can't remember which subreddit it is. Hold on. The subreddit called Toxic Positivity. I wanted to talk about toxic positivity today, and it's not a very big subreddit. I pretty much covered all of the posts that exist in there when I went through it, and I am just going to share what I found and my thoughts on it. So let's get started. I'll put the screenshots on the screen so you can read along. Now, this first one is called Toxic Positive Parents, ? Toxic Positive Parents. And it was actually posted 42 days ago, and there have been no responses to it, so I thought I would go ahead and say my piece, and maybe that person watches this. The body of the post says, how to deal with parents. Well, my mom saying toxic positive things. I know she means well, but people really don't understand what it's like with a mental illness and can't afford therapy. I hate trying to smile always and be happy. First thing, it's really so sad how toxic positivity can affect people, especially if you have mental health issues, but even if you don't, it's called toxic positivity for a reason. It is toxic and it can be really harmful. And so I'm really sorry that this person is dealing with a parent, because that's somebody that is in their life probably daily. It seems like they may be a kid living at home or teenager. So in case you're not aware, toxic positivity is taking something positive and making it toxic. Toxic positivity is when you take any situation and completely disregard the negative in it. Positivity on its own isn't toxic. It becomes toxic when it doesn't leave room for the balance of negativity and positivity. So you think about like a magnet. It has a negative pull and a positive pull. It needs both in order to work. The earth is a magnet, and so we live in a magnetic world with two poles. Therefore, having both is necessary. And like if you think about atoms, there's protons and electrons. Electrons are the negative aspect of that atom. Protons are the positive aspect of that atom. There's not a single element in the periodic table that doesn't have one of each, at least one of each. There are times when they get out of balance, but it becomes unstable. The atom becomes unstable when it's missing an electron or when it's got too many electrons. We won't get into a chemistry lesson, and I don't really remember what that all is with chemistry, but I know that happens.
I'm not a girl. Not a girl. I'm not a girl.
Anyway, that's all to say that it's important to recognize the balance of positive and negative, and toxic positivity leaves no room for anything negative. And so I actually have another screenshot that illustrates what toxic positivity is and what is a better way to respond to things in a non-toxic way, but still kind of be supportive. So a toxic positivity statement is,
don't think about it, stay positive.
Instead, something that would be non-toxic would be, describe what you're feeling, I'm listening. So that's just one example. We'll come back to this screenshot because I think it's important, but I want to address the person who asked this question. So I think the first thing I would say, especially if this person was a child or a teenager and lives at home and has to see this person every day, that it could be beneficial for them to seek outside support, somebody like a teacher or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or a friend who they can talk to about it. And obviously they mentioned that they don't have a therapist, but if someone else is dealing with a person who is toxically positive all the time and expects them to be as well, talking to a therapist about it can also help. But just finding someone else outside of that relationship who can, support you in the way that you need, where you can be yourself, where you can deal with the mental health issues that you need to. I also think it's important to set boundaries with that person. It's hard, again, if they're your parent, because especially if you live with them, so if it's a spouse and you're an adult or anything like that as well. If it's someone that you see daily, it's hard to maintain those boundaries, but setting a boundary of needing space by yourself needing time by yourself. And again, that can be really hard with a parent because a lot of times, especially a parent who maybe is toxic or toxically positive, they might have entitlement issues about whether or not you can act as your own person. But I'm a big cheerleader of setting boundaries and maintaining them. So any boundary that you need to set to protect your mental health is good. And then also having that time by yourself. So making that a boundary and making sure that you have that time where you can just deal with your own things. And then finally, just like focusing on yourself, not giving them very much power over you and how you feel. Allow yourself to feel the things you need to, even if this person would classify them as a negative emotion. There's a reason that we can feel negative emotions, and I think that we should. So I'm not a therapist or anything like that. Obviously, I probably should have said that first.
I'm not a girl. Not a girl. I'm not a girl.
This is just how I would answer a person on Reddit. So let's see what the next screenshot is.
So far, you've survived 100% of your worst days. You're doing great.
And then someone else captioned it, surviving is not thriving. And then someone else commented, you're not dead. Super motivating, guys. Exactly. This is toxic positivity because it's like, yeah, you've had bad days, but you survived them. And I get what they were kind of trying to get at is like, you can do anything. You've gotten through it in the past, so you can do it again. But that would be a better way to say it. You're strong enough to get through a bad day because you've done it before. Giving encouragement in that way. And obviously it's a meme. It's like a mural painted on the wall. So you only have a limited amount of space. But anyway, the way that someone else captioned it, that it's surviving is not thriving, that's an important distinction, because just because you did make it through those bad days doesn't mean that you were really happy throughout that time or you were living your best life or whatever you want to call it. Thriving is really what we should be striving for. All right, so the next one is using toxic positivity to justify poverty. The worst. Is there a sub specifically for this kind of BS and false narrative which portray the rich as the victims? I take pride in living frugally on my meager earnings and looking for the upsides. So then the image is actually of
how being poor might be an advantage.
And then someone else commented, be grateful for everything, every little crumb, so that you don't question why you done deserve a wage you can actually live off of. I don't know what this article is about. Like, obviously I haven't read it, but it's the same thing. It's like you're like scrappy because you're poor or whatever. Like, you know how to budget, or you know how to stretch a dollar, so you're able to get through things easier than somebody who has money. But they fail to remember that a person who is really wealthy doesn't have to think about anything involving finances, because they always have enough for their basic needs and usually things beyond that. Just because somebody who's really wealthy doesn't know how to budget doesn't mean that they're not in. It's just so backwards. The fact that somebody doesn't know how to budget or stretch a dollar, it may be a life skill that they may need at some point if their fortunes ever switched, but it's not disadvantageous because they don't need that skill and they probably won't ever need that skill. Anyway, it's just dumb. Okay, so now this one is just somebody asking, when did you find out about toxic positivity? So I'm going to read some of the answers and then I'll share my answer. I didn't even know what it was until 2020. When I found out, I was shocked there was even a class of positivity called toxic positivity. But then that same week, I was bombarded with a barrage of it and instantly recognized it. I called it out a few times only for them to actively deflect responsibility. Shake my head. Yeah, SMH. Somebody else said, just found out yesterday on an educational account on Instagram, and I realized I experienced it at my high school. No matter what you were going through, even if it was a mental health crisis, people would tell you to stay positive or give me grace. Got a story related to that. One, during my junior year of high school, my district ended up going online. Obviously, this was during when COVID was a new thing. My English teacher was known to be the positive one, almost too positive. During a Zoom class, she asked us how COVID had affected my family. Because my mom is an art therapist and she worked with practically COVID patients, which scared the shit out of me, I told her about it and she gave me an "oh, anyways," and turned my mic off, and I sobbed. She was the worst. This is an example of why schools should just throw away the toxic positivity crap and actually focus on mental health of their students. Yes, yeah, so like no empathy there. And just moving past any sort of hardship that's going on. Someone else just said a while ago, And then someone else said that they found out about it while watching a review of the 1990 Simpsons episode Moaning Lisa. I actually remember that episode, and it's not when I learned about toxic positivity, but it is, I thought it had such a good example of shadow work, or how to treat your emotions. Let me see if I can find the clip. Okay, I found it.
Now, Lisa, listen to me. This is important. I want you to smile today.
But I don't feel like smiling.
Well, it doesn't matter how you feel inside, you know. It's what shows up on the surface that counts. That's what my mother taught me. Take all your bad feelings and push them down, all the way down, past your knees until you're almost walking on them. And then you'll fit in, and you'll be invited to parties, and boys will like you, and happiness will follow.
So that is toxic positivity. That's and it's a cycle here where Marge is passing on what her mom taught her. So there's like a cycle of abuse going on where Marge's mom forced, her name's Marge, right? Yeah, Marge's mom forced her to always be happy, and if she is, then more happiness will come, and that she'll be popular and all those things, and now she's passing it on to Lisa.
Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Oh, that's my girl.
I feel more popular already.
Hey, nice smile.
Thanks.
Hey, what are you talking to her for? She's just gonna say something weird.
Not me.
You know, I used to think you were some sort of a brainiac, but I guess you're okay.
Uh-huh.
Hey, why don't you come over to my house after practice? You can do my homework.
Okay.
5 minutes, people, 5 minutes. Now, Miss Simpson, I hope we won't have a repeat of yesterday's outburst of unbridled creativity.
No, sir. Wow, Mom.
So that's where she gets it.
Lisa, I apologize to you. I was wrong. I take it all back. Always be yourself. You want to be sad, honey? Be sad. We'll write it out with you. And when you get finished feeling sad, we'll still be there. From now on, let me do the smiling for both of us.
Okay, Mom.
I said you could stop smiling, Lisa.
I feel like smiling.
Aw, isn't that cute? That little clip is like, it's what toxic positivity is and how to actually support someone who's going through a hard time. There's something in the Simpsons for like everything. I'm sure I could just have a channel where I just show you clips related to what I'm talking about. There's a reason that we can feel feelings, and we should be, especially with the people that we care about, there should be space for being able to feel the feelings that you're having without, and even if it might make someone else uncomfortable, it's important to have that space. And of course, I don't think it's okay to like hurt other people or cause other people pain due to your outbursts if that's an emotion that you're feeling. Like, I think there's a balance of needing to learn how to express our emotions in a healthy way that doesn't hurt other people, and that includes ourselves, not hurting ourselves in the process. And suppressing your emotions can be really hurtful to yourself, and it can also eventually hurt other people. I've talked about that in the shadow work video I made recently about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde effect of suppressing your emotions. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. I learned about toxic positivity when I was doing a video series in like 2016 or 2017. I think it was 2017. It's called the Enwitching series. I posted a couple of the videos here, but I don't think I posted this one. It was the video that I did about the like downside of entering the witchy world, and one of the things I talked about was all the toxic positivity. So that's when I started researching about it and realizing how harmful it can be to just like be toxically positive. And then one really interesting book that I read much more recently is called Bright-Sided. And in this book, it's kind of like the history of how America is founded on toxic positivity and how it is ingrained in like everything, from the way we educate kids to the way we view work ethic to the way we talk about healing and medical world. There's just toxic positivity everywhere. It's a really interesting book, so I definitely recommend that. Okay, so this one's called New Realization of Toxic Positivity in Childhood. No responses. Growing up, my bio mom was very abusive toward my brother and I. When I went over to my bio dad's house, there was a rule that we weren't allowed to talk about my bio mom or anything negative going on because my stepmom didn't want to hear about it. So another abusive situation. That leads to abuse being completely ignored for years. Still to this day, never fully acknowledged because it's in the past. I realize now that my bio dad and stepmom created a very toxic positive environment. Lesson here is always hear your children out because there could be a lot going on under the surface. When you constantly reject your children, they will eventually resent you. It's hard to truly amend a relationship after that. Ugh, this is awful. And I don't think this is uncommon. I was lucky to grow up in a house that was very emotional. We often expressed our emotions loudly and then reconciled and talked about what we were feeling and talked about how we were going to move forward and what we would do to not hurt another person again, not hurt someone's feelings, etc. That's my experience, and I know that I'm very lucky. But this is the damage that is caused by toxic positivity. Not only were they being abused physically by one parent, they were being abused emotionally and mentally by another parent, and that sucks. I've decided to make this video into a 3-part series when I got to the end of recording, and I wanted to just let you know that I'm ending the first part here. So I will be posting the other 2 videos within the next couple of days so that we can continue the series. If you enjoyed this, please give this video a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. If you come across any toxic positivity content, especially related to spirituality, witchcraft, anything like that, please send it my way so I can react to it as well and share it with the other people in this community. There's instructions for submitting content for me to react to below this video if you would like to do that. So with that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.